Welcome back to the other side with DC. I'm with the Vice Chair of DART, Dallas Area Rapid Transit, Vice Chair Randall Bryant. Randall Bryant, who's going somewhere. I want y'all to know that. I'm going to just put that little personal thing in there. 38 years old, on the move.
Yes, sir.
40 years from now, you'll be 78.
Lord's will.
What will you be doing?
I hope I'm doing something right like this right now.
Okay.
I hope that I can sit across the table from someone a generation or two younger than me and give them an opportunity. Give them some information that I have that they may not, that can help them do something better.
Like I'm doing right now.
You're doing it.
Listen, DART, we of course we're in the news. Okay?
Yes, sir.
What are the plans with some of the other cities, and what is exactly the concern that they're having? Because we're going to hit some other topics in just a little
Sure.
bit. But what are the current concerns that folks are coming down the DART board and raising hell about?
Sure. So let me just kind of put it in a bit of a context.
Okay.
So I talked about the 1 cent sales tax allocation, right? So in Texas, sales tax is 8.25% or 8.25 cents per dollar. And so the businesses, when they do commerce, right, they collect that tax.
Right.
They send it to the comptroller's office.
Right.
Okay. So every city that business or commerce is derived in is allocated 2 cents. Okay, 2 of the 6.25. The 6.25 goes to the state. The 2 goes to the city. Where there are cities the 13 cities that are within DART, right? One penny stays with the city. The other penny goes to DART. Okay. So it's about $900 million that annually that the sales tax of that 1 penny through the 13 cities collectively equates for our annual revenue, right? And cities each year are kind of facing budget cuts. You've been around plenty of budget years, good years and bad years. 2008, you were a council member then, and so some of our cities that don't have the flexibility to use that 1 penny, right?
Okay.
Because we're in a very competitive market here in Dallas, right? We're competing for businesses that, come from other parts of the state and come from out of state, right? But within the competitiveness of North Texas as a region, there's competitiveness within the cities, right? Cities want to attract a business from a neighboring city, right? And so to do that, you oftentimes use economic incentives to do so, right? Whether that's tax abatements or, TIF programs, whatever that case may be. And so because some of our cities, or really all of our cities, because they don't have that flexibility to do so, their ability to compete with other cities like Frisco, like Allen, like Arlington, that don't have their full penny dedicated to transit, although they may have some level of transit, it's not a full penny, right?
Right.
And so, they are trying to find out how to compete. And part of, the easiest one on the chopping block is the sales tax that DART has. And so our provision in the state transportation code 452 provides the assessment at a full penny, 3/4, half a penny, and 1/4, right? And so we're obviously right now at the full penny. And so the only way that could change is by board resolution or through state intervention.
Right.
Right. And so it's been requested of us. We've said no. The board does not want to devalue the penny and give the quarter of it or any amounts of it back.
We can't afford it.
Yeah, it will reduce our services. It's $250 million worth of services each year, right? And so some cities elected to go down to the state this past session, file a bill. The bill of contention the most was House Bill 3187 that was carried by Matt Shaheen, who covers parts of his district, covers parts of Plano. And so, we fought back against that. Shout out to State Rep. Vinton Jones, State Rep. Tony Rose, Senator Royce West, Senator Nathan Johnson, Chairman Nichols, who's actually Republican, who held it down on the Senate side.
Okay.
And we were able to defeat that bill. Within that process, though, the DART board tried to create a local solution to the funding issue.
Right.
And within that, we passed a resolution to say, well, we can't afford $250 million. We can't afford 25% of our money, right?
No.
But for a interim period of time, we can try to find a way to afford 5%, which equates to about $42 million. Okay.
Okay.
And we offered that. We passed that as a majority. It was voted against by some, but we passed it as a majority. We offered it during the legislative session. We offered it, and a resolution in lieu of the bill.
Right.
And so the bill, although the bill failed, the bills can always come back.
Right.
There's always a next session,
Right.
right? And so, we could easily take the resolution back and go back to business as usual, but we'll find ourselves in the same place 2 years from now, right? With a bill that has some traction behind it in this session. And so we're keeping our word to the local solution, and it's an additional $42 million in a General Mobility Program, GMP, that's the technical term of it, that will give that money back to 7 cities that were identified through this quite controversial Ernst & Young report that was done that showed 7 cities in particular, which were Plano, Carrollton, Farmers Branch, Addison, Richardson, Highland Park, University Park, that those cities effectively were putting in a dollar but not getting a full dollar in return of services, right?
Okay.
And so we're trying to offset some of those dollars, right? We obviously can't give the full value back, and we're trying to create more services in their cities so that delta closes, but in the interim, be able to provide some cash flow back to them to do transportation-related projects specifically in their cities. So because of that $42 million that we're offsetting with the GMP, and then probably another $35 million in new services. We got the new Silver Line that's coming on, a $2 billion project that will go from Plano to DFW will be the second entrance. I think we're going to be the only light rail service in the country with 2 entry points. Well, actually, it'd be 3 with the Tex Rail into a major airport, right? So those new costs will be about $30 million. And then you just got the cost of fuel escalations and inflationary costs. So we have about a shortfall of about $78 million this year. And, you've been through budget processes. And so it's, there's only so many buckets of money that you can take from. We have capital programs, how do we build new assets and keep the upkeep of the assets that we currently have. Services, right, which is what most people have seen and are most keen on because that's what everyone uses, right? So we have a bucket of services, and then we have a bucket of, just administrative costs, right? And so we're going through a public hearing process that, number one, is federally mandated.
Okay.
To cut routes, to reduce the frequency of intervals of routes to the degree that we're talking about, it is federal law that you have to go through a public hearing process, right, to advertise the possibility of those routes being removed or reduced, okay? So we didn't do this because we wanted to scare the community or anything like that. We want to be very real and upfront and say these cuts could happen, right? But they aren't guaranteed, and the only reason why we're telling you this is because if we just cut one of those routes, right, we had to advertise it in this public hearing process.
Right.
And so we're going through budget season right now, all the way through September, that will kind of choose from the menu of options, whether that be capital programs. We have some emergency reserve money. We're going to definitely use that to cover this. Service cuts and then operational and administrative cuts. And so that process is long. There's a long road still left ahead in that process. We're nowhere near even a first recommendation of that budget.
Well, you have to discuss the good, bad, and the ugly
Right.
to get to the solution.
Right.
And folks have to kind of understand the process.
Right.
It is a process.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, a lot of misinformation gets out.
Sure.
Put a pin in advertising, something I want to come back to at some point with DART. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to do that. But at the end of the day, folks and rumors are out that it's going to get cut. We're going to lose our services in the South.
Right.
And we're not going to have the bus routes. I saw a lady this morning on the news. She and her mother, I believe it's her mother that's blind.
Mm-hmm.
The paratransit is talked about being cut.
Mm-hmm.
Bus routes in southern Dallas. Right. Speak to that.
Yeah, let me first make this point. My father came down and spoke this past week at the public hearing.
Okay.
He is 90% blind and 100% dependent on DART paratransit.
Right.
And it's been that way for decades. He has a degenerate eye complication disease. And so where as part of an option, right, that we've looked at is scaling back what our paratransit services are from a system-wide service coverage to what's federally minimally required, which is the paratransit map, right, or service area would only extend to 3/4 of a mile of fixed service. What's fixed service? Buses and trains, right?
Okay.
So where buses and trains currently go, the federal minimal standard is paratransit has to extend at least 3/4 of a mile beyond that bus and or train.
Okay.
Where my father lives in Rowlett, they don't have, they have the train, then that's all, they have the light rail. There are no buses, right? So where he lives, if we were to implement that worst case scenario plan, where he lives would increase his trips from $3.50 to $10 one way. Okay, so I'm very sensitive to the issues of paratransit, right? Because it's something that hits me very home, very close to home, and so. Again, none of it is set in stone, but those are some of the possibilities to shrink this $78 million gap down, right?
Okay.
And so there are kind of parts all across. It's really more on the outer edges of the service area. You know, South Dallas, Southern Dallas, Oak Cliff. We got buses going all up and down those streets, right?
Okay.
And so that's really not where the areas of concern for paratransit are. Kleberg Raleigh does have some areas that are serviced by GoLink that don't have buses and trains. Plano, I believe there are some spots kind of in the Park Cities, obviously. And so that's kind of like, it's more on the periphery of the service area where that kind of scale back could potentially happen. But again, I'm very sensitive to the outcome of it because it's going to go triple the rate. Triple the rate for someone like my father.
And why is it tripling the rate?
Right. So in an effort to reduce the amount of money, DART spends about, so for that $3.50 for a rider of paratransit, and paratransit services those with mental deficiencies, those with physical deficiencies. So it's kind of a wide range, right? But you think about those that are wheelchair bound, right? You have to use specialized vehicles for that, right? With equipment and stuff. And so DART subsidizes paratransit about $50 per ride. It's a very expensive. I mean, a bus route is, $10, $12 that we subsidize at DART, right? And so, because it's so expensive, if we reduce the amount of expenses that we had to the federal minimum guidelines, it would save us some money as we try to close that gap.
So it sounds like to me that we need to figure out how, or Dart needs to figure out how we can bring in more revenue in order to pay for these expenses.
Yeah, I think the most immediate kind of idea is how do we close this gap with the least amount of impact on people as possible.
Right.
Right. And that's something that I'm committed to. I know the board members, the Dallas board members are committed to that. And so, that's number one. Number two, it is about bringing in more revenue, but it's also about delivering efficient, safe, and quality service, right? Because the revenue really is not generated, and this is, the other side talks about this is like, our money comes regardless of how good or bad our services are, right? Mm-hmm. Because our money is derived from the sales tax. That sales tax is 66% of our budget annually. Fair box recovery or fair collection, it's only about 5-6% of our money each year, right? And so giving better service, it doesn't equate to a lot more money, but that's the foundation of what we should be doing is giving the best service that we can, right? Because the sales tax, the commerce that's happening at gas stations and wherever, that's going to happen regardless of what's happening with DART, right? And so the bulk of the money that we generate in revenue is not truly dependent on the service we provide. That's the reality of how our revenue is derived, but the bigger reality of what our task is to provide safe, reliable transportation for everyone, and not just people that are dependent on it. I mean, when I go to the airport, I live right off the rail line downtown. I take the rail because at the end of the day, what we know, and COG talks about this all the time. You know what COG is,
right?
In 2050, so right now, about 50% of the population in the North Texas region, the 16 counties under COG, about 50% are in a transportation city or municipality. The other 50 are not. By 2050, almost three quarters of them will be living in non-transit cities, right? And so, the question becomes, how do we start creating more development around our stations, right? Which will increase property values, which will increase sales tax revenues, which will help cities and DART, right? How do we bring more cities in, as you were referencing?
Right.
But DART unfortunately has a stigma, right? Well, anything public has a stigma.
Right.
Public housing has a stigma.
Got a big stigma.
Right. And so you got to kind of first bring that veil down, right? And kind of reshape the narrative of what DART and public transportation is. I say we do mass transit. I don't say we're public transportation, right? Because we're living in an environment where DEI is getting cut, and depending on how you term something, automatically sends the red flags off to want to cut it, right? And so I say we deliver mass transit, right? And so it's kind of like reshaping the narrative around DART and what we do at DART and how we can be a benefit to the cities that are looking at the dollars, that are looking at the security issues, that are looking at all those things, and how do we provide the service to the people, but how do we ensure that what we do is in conjunction with what the city's goals are.
Well, what's happening with Cedar Hill, DeSoto, and Duncanville, and those cities?
Sure.
And DART? What's the relationship?
So
what's the plan?
I said that in 1983 we had our first votes, right? I want to say Glen Heights. I know it was a one vote differentiator.
Right.
I want to say it was like 16 to 17 votes.
Right.
That passed that referendum. I want to say it was 17 people in Glen Heights that voted for it and 16 that voted against. In 1983, those cities you just referenced were kind of mere specks on a map as it relates to Dallas, North Texas, right? They have around 60,000 population now. And so I don't think DART and our NPO, COG, RTC, and those cities have done a great job of communicating what the transit needs are in those cities and how can DART facilitate them? They're using transit. They're spending money on transit in those cities. The majority of them use a service called Star Transit, right? Now, Star Transit is only good within the municipalities that they service, right? And so we obviously have a greater offering at the same or, at a comparable cost,
Right.
You can not only take DART, if you are in Cedar Hill and you are a city or a member city of DART, you would not only take it in Cedar Hill, like you only can take it with Star Transit, but you can go all the way to Plano, essentially.
You go
right?
to the airport.
Or the airport, right? And so, it's my goal as the vice chair and presumably the incoming chair for DART. I mean, we had to take a vote,
Well, I just voted.
Yeah, we got to take a vote.
You
just voted? Okay, well, okay. That I can use my contacts and try to leverage those relationships in those cities, not to shove DART down their throats, right? But to, number one, understand what are the transit needs in your city. Are they being adequately addressed? Do you have the funds to expand on those? And either how do we bring you in as a full city with that penny, or provide enough a la carte services that gets you into the system?
Because that would work toward reducing our budget.
Absolutely.
And bringing this problem that we're currently having and kind of settle down the.
Yeah, I just think that DART has. I mean, we're 40-year agency. I can say this as 38, right?
Right.
A 40-some-odd-year agency. I think the first, and there was nothing wrong with it, right? But the first goals were to build, right? Build light rail, build commuter rails, the TRE, the Silver Line North, expand our bus services, right? Of course, we went through COVID, and we are trying to recapture those riders that were the long-haul commuters from the park and ride stations out up north that were coming downtown that are working from home now, right? And so we're trying to increase that ridership. But it's been a build mode for DART, right? It's been a lot of bond money and long-term debt to build the system. I think now it's built out,
right? And
there's maintenance that comes with that, right? But there's also vision forward for the next iteration of DART. RTC, the Regional Transportation Council, just finished the Transit 2.0 study, which we're starting to now trying to incorporate some of those elements into DART. But that's, I mean, we're where some people look at it and say, no one's come into DART over the past 40 years. I don't think we've really been able to offer any new cities something attractive, because we've been so focused on giving the current cities, rightfully so, the best services and the best built system that we can. We've now done that, right? And so now it's going to take some vision to look at Duncanville, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, Lancaster, Mesquite, right? And start kind of bringing those cities in to some level to, number one, offset the bigger burden beyond money. The biggest burden is there are not enough billions of dollars in highways that will suffice the number of people that will live here and that will commute through here and that will tourist the North Texas area. There's not enough highway lanes possible, nor billions of dollars that can be invested in it by 2050. But then number two, the secondary issue is, how do we relieve that congestion? And then how do we make our transit system the most marketable regional system that it can be?
I got an idea.
Okay.
We're going to take a pause, have us a drink of water. And if we're going to come right back with the other side, with DC, with our special guest, Randall Bryant.
Don't go anywhere. We've got more of The Other Side with Dwaine Caraway after a word from today's sponsor.
This is Dila Coffee, an authentic specialty Ethiopian coffee experience, and we're on a mission to bring the best of specialty coffee back to the forefront. Directly from our family farm, we're bringing first grade, single origin specialty coffee from the famous Yirgacheffe region of Ethiopia.
Welcome back to The Other Side. I'm Dwaine Caraway. Welcome to The Other Side with DC. Share it, like it, subscribe. And call your friends in Asia and Africa, and Philadelphia, and Atlanta. Let them know that
This is
I
D La
happen to be
Coffee.
talking right now with the Vice Chair of DART, Dallas Area Rapid Transit, Randall Bryant.
Yes, sir.
Randall,
Yes, sir.
we've been cutting it up.
It's been going real good.
We're finna cut it up a little bit more.
All right, let's go.
Let's talk about the DART police
Okay.
and crime.
Yep.
Specifically, my concern has been the West End.
Okay.
Okay, what are we concentrating on in there to kind of break up the
Yep.
monopoly and
Yep.
monotony of that particular area
Yep.
to kind of bring some civility to it?
Yeah. So I think two things are critical right now. Number one, with all of our cities,
Right.
I think DART can do and should do a better job of communicating and working directly with those cities to devise a plan. Because I don't think that people wake up every day and say, I want to be a DART criminal,
Right.
or I want to be an unhoused member that sits on a DART platform. Typically, kind of the manifestations of our individual cities are just exacerbated on the DART buses, trains, and platforms, right? Of course, we kind of transport folks to and fro, but I was actually with a meeting with a council member on yesterday. We were talking about this, and I said, Dallas and DART specifically right here needs to determine what that plan will be for crime, what that plan will be for response to crime, what that plan will be for response to unhoused individuals. Because it won't work if, let's say, Dallas creates a plan that says on Dallas's streets, we will lock these people up. Then they're just going to naturally gravitate to the DART platforms where Dallas jurisdiction cuts off, right? And it won't work the other way if DART says we're going to lock all these people up or throw all these people off the platforms. Then they're just going to be on the Dallas streets, right?
Right.
So Dallas and DART has to do the same thing. I'm not here to say right now what the same thing is, but I know if we're not doing the same thing, it's just going to hurt the other group.
That's correct.
Right. And so what I've kind of noticed in a year and 4 months or so being on the board is that we haven't historically been communicating to the level required to address these issues that we have. Right.
And not to cut you off, but my concern has been, as former chair of public safety when I was on the council, and looking at the issues of crime and the rate of crime, it seems like there's a separation in where it should be more of a communication
Right.
and a collective, collaborative
Right.
manner
Right.
to address the issue.
Right.
Now, specifically, let's play with South Oak Cliff High School, for example. When the kids at South Oak Cliff then were walking out of school, they get off the bus, they get out their parents' car,
Right.
and they go up to the door, and as soon as the parent drives off, then the kid would leave the campus.
Sure.
Okay? Now, my thing was, okay, now we got DART police and we got Dallas police, but now the way it was, that when that kid would touch the street, the sidewalk, and get into the street, that no longer involved DART,
Right.
that became Dallas's problem.
And that's my point, right?
Right.
Where
Right.
the jurisdiction begins and ends.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so if we were all on the same accord, it wouldn't matter where jurisdiction ends. It
That's
just
correct.
matters who responds.
That's correct.
Right.
Because I was saying that, to keep the kids in school, we just put a DART police
right there.
right there, right there.
Yeah.
So when that kid jump out,
Yeah.
then the DART police could not the DART police, not all DART. Dallas ISD police.
Dallas, okay.
Let me make that real
So
clear.
now you got three. You have three.
You got three
jurisdictions.
entities.
Yeah, three entities.
So I'm speaking of DISD.
Okay.
I'll let Dart have a ride on that for a minute. But when the kid gets into the street, DISD police,
They stop. Right.
Okay? And then when they get to Dart, okay, then that's the Dart's problem. Then when
Right.
you get to Dallas, that's the Dallas problem.
Right.
I think we got enough police in this city collectively. If Dart, DISD, and the Dallas Police Department, and the sheriff, and the constables
Right.
would all get together
Yep.
and collectively figure out a plan how it can intertwine and work to resolve all of the issues that we're having with crime.
Yeah. So I'm gonna speak just a little more on Dart. 'Cause
Okay.
I can't talk about all those other people.
I can, but go
I
ahead.
wish, but I will say I wish that the leaders, specifically in Dallas, that try to tout crime the most as that's their number one issue would come down to us and try to work on those issues with us.
That's correct.
Yeah. But at Dart, we have kind of three variations of uniformed officers. We have Dart Police, we have transit security officers, and then we have fair enforcement officers, right? This past New Year's, I spent it in Mexico City,
Okay.
right? Talk about stigmas, man. I mean, complete opposite of what everyone tells you, right? In the main areas of the main square, every 2 or 3 blocks you walked, there was someone in a uniform. Now, you couldn't tell if they were state police, local police.
They're in
It
uniform.
was somebody, and sometimes they just had a walkie-talkie. They didn't all have guns, but almost every 2 blocks you walked, there was someone standing there in uniform, and it gave you a sense of secured presence.
Right.
So Dart, we have those 3 variations of officers, right? They do different jobs. I talked about our budget earlier. So one thing that I'm trying to even put back in the budget, which would make our delta even bigger, is about $7.8 million for another 100 transit security officers, right? And so I'm willing to, entertain that conversation because security is so important for us right now,
Right.
And so, beyond the people, because you got to create the line item, then you got to hire and train, and then create the plan for that. West End, in particular, is a hot spot,
Right.
for just crime in general. That kind of general area, and that's kind of what I was saying before, right? Like, people don't wake up and say, "I want to go commit crime at Dart," right? Criminals do criminal activity, right? Dart is just a blown up scale of what's happening in those local cities, right? And I'm not blaming any of our local cities for what's happening in their cities, but I'm just saying that Dart is a byproduct of those, whatever's happening in those cities. And so we have to work to clean those things up together, because I can't push everyone off Dart platforms or threaten to lock people up, because then all they're going to do is flood the cities of the streets of Dallas,
Right.
and vice versa, right? And so again, I think we should utilize our ability to coordinate and conversate with each other and develop that plan through the Public Safety Committee, through the Transportation Committee within the City of Dallas, but then do that for all of our cities as well. And given the legislation that was imposed and all that, it's just created a very toxic environment right now of the ability to work with our member cities, all 13 of them, essentially, to work towards common goal when you're dealing with the threat of funding being defunded or derailed, right? And so, like, all those things have really distracted us over the past 6 years, really, from addressing the real issues, right? And so, hopefully we get past this. Hopefully our cities buy into the program that we're offering, and we can get past the funding issues and get back to working on the issues.
Well, when I'm very active and will continue to be active. You can't serve as much as I've served and then think I'm going to go hide in a hole. I will come down to the Dart board to a meeting, not to raise hell, but to try to open up some channels of ideas. Because as relate to the overall city, we talk about crime being down. Well, I kind of question some of the numbers, but, it's one of those things. but I want to have a safe city. We got the World Cup coming.
Right.
We're on the world stage.
Right.
We live here ourselves.
That's right.
And it's our responsibility to keep it as safe as possible. I think we have enough guns. I think we have enough badges to eradicate this problem that we're having, to keep all entities safe.
Right.
Okay? But we need to come together. And I'm for every entity
Yep.
that has law enforcement behind them
Yep.
to sit down. And I hope that while you are vice chair, and then even when you are the chair, that you all will lead the way. Now, I moved, I'm tipping my hat. I opened up the Dart police station at the Monroe shop. I want y'all to know that, okay?
It's on the list to be renovated, actually, I believe.
Again,
Yeah,
we got to expand. What we gonna do?
I haven't seen the plans yet, but I saw it in the budget.
Include me in that because I want to know. Because they wanted to move. The big battle at City Hall was with Dart and Chief Spiller at that time, the late Chief Spiller. At that time, they wanted to move the Dart police north. And I said, oh, no. We need the police presence
Right.
south, right
Right.
here in the hood.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And that is why we're at the Monroe shop. So now to hear you say it's on the budget plans to be renovated to whatever,
Okay.
because I put the community court in there,
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
But I want to be made aware and keep up with that,
Yep.
only to just be knowledgeable about something that was needed in our area. Now, how about crime on the buses? What's the level of crime that we're having actually committed on the Dart rail lines
Yep.
currently?
So our staffing plan is to try to put at least one police officer, transit security officer, or fair enforcement officer on every train in particular at peak times, but even at non-peak times, right? Part of the challenge with that is, our light rail vehicles are staged. You have, cars, right? You got one car, sometimes two cars, in extreme scenarios, 3 cars when there are special events, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's still that one person that's responsible for
The whole
potentially
line.
all 3, right? And so that becomes a challenge, right? That's why I said, trying to bring on more officers would help alleviate that.
It's like an air marshal on the plane.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Beyond that, we try to stage some type of uniform security on the platforms
Right.
at peak times and in non-peak times as possible. The gap really then becomes the buses, right? And, we had an incident a few months back, it was last year, I believe, maybe towards the end of last year, where an altercation happened with a passenger, a young passenger, and one of our drivers, and the driver came from behind the security screen and exited the bus, and they had a fight.
Okay.
That can't happen. We actually have purchased new vehicles where the enclosure is that security screen is completely secure now and enclosed, protects our
So the
drivers.
driver's boxed in.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So those vehicles should be here by the World Cup next year. And beyond that, we have looked at on routes that we've seen crime, putting maybe a uniform officer on that route as well, right?
Okay.
We got to get more uniform officers. This is why I'm pushing for the additional 100 to be able to look at that as well. But again, when people, it's kind of like people don't rob the bank because they know it's secure. But if you leave the door open,
Yeah, come on in.
they'll come on in, right? And so, again, the stigma of what we do and the service we provide, when people know that this is a place to get people from A to B, people that lives are depending on it, and you should act accordingly. That's what we should be doing.
Now, when we're talking about new trains or new buses,
Right now, we have purchased somewhere around 400 new buses.
okay,
Our light rail vehicles are the next to be. I mean, some of the light rail vehicles we have been there since day one, 1996.
yeah, They're all in southern Dallas.
Yeah.
They're all on Lancaster.
No,
They over there. Y'all know they at Lancaster.
It's
Right
there.
by Rudy's Chicken, passing every day. Go ahead. I'm shooting a shot every time.
So we're trying to figure out, financially how to start replacing some of those light rail vehicles as well. And there are a lot of options out there.
But what
just
will we do with the
technologically.
rails? All right, we're gonna get some new trains.
Yeah.
What will happen with the new train, or with the trains we have now?
Well, it's not just about getting new trains. The trains we currently have, just the maintenance costs on them are exorbitant.
Okay.
And the downtime on them, and again, if the goal is to provide reliable service, you got to have a
Right.
reliable vehicle. To do
Absolutely.
so, right. And so what we call our state of good repair,
Okay.
or our operation and maintenance costs are kind of high right now because we're spending a lot of time and money replacing old vehicles that it's kind of like having that old clunker.
Like mine outside.
I don't know what you got, but it's the radiator one day, and it's
Oh, man.
it's the brakes all the time.
Yeah,
so
it's always something.
It's always something, and so trying to figure out, and then there's new types of trackless trams, right? They look like a bus, or they look like a light streetcar, but they actually roll on wheels, right? And you
Okay.
can kind of create platforms. And there's some that are autonomous, right? So there are a lot of just new technology since 1996.
But the buses. Let's just talk about the buses. What happens when we bring in the new 400 buses? You
Right.
said 400 buses. What's going to happen with the old buses?
Unfortunately, I believe the federal requirement says that we can only sell them for like $5,000.
Well, I want to buy about 10 of them.
And you
I'm going to be on record right now.
Yeah.
I need 5 of them buses.
I think it's
5
like
or 10 of them buses.
5,000, or we have to give them back to the federal government, something like that, because the federal government is
I'm putting in my open bid right now, my open request. So I'm
Right.
not fill out no more paperwork.
Right.
We'd like to have them because
Yeah,
there's
so-
a lot of things. Here's the deal. I have a nonprofit, the Dallas Youth Council.
Mm-hmm.
That's my nonprofit, 501. And there's so many things, Randall, that I feel from hearing what you just said that we could do with buses, because there's transportation that's needed
Sure.
in order to transport kids, and I'm basically with kids, okay, to places that they can, see the world.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about driving that busway to out of town.
Might not make it.
That's my point right there. I want to go out of town. But there are, and that's good for us to hear early.
Sure.
Because the early news is the good news.
Right.
And knowing that that's happening, or is a possibility, as we begin to get rid of, if you got some now that you can get rid of, 5,000.
We got to keep all the ones we got right now.
Okay, well,
But the new ones is coming.
I like to get the first 10. I'm gonna be public to say I want the first 10. But for the purpose of being able to take kids fishing, to being able to take them to the picnic or to the park or to the museums.
Right.
Okay, because
Right.
transportation is essential for
Right.
those that don't have it. So I'm
We
glad
also have
hear
to,
that.
even through that with the youth, create the apprenticeship programs for them, right? And so, there are a lot of economic drivers in the southern sector. You got Redbird Airport.
Right.
You have DART.
Right.
Right. And so you have places where high-paying jobs, even in the state of Texas, union-based jobs, where a collective bargaining agreement to some degree happens for the protection of that job, even if someone gets fired, right? And drawing the connection point with the youth to that opportunity,
Right.
And those are critical to start even exploring, even if we just said, what's 2 buses to donate to a program where they could learn mechanics, right?
Right.
Why can't Southwest give us a plane, take it over to Redbird Airport, and you learn aviation?
Have we ever asked them?
I don't believe so.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah,
We're
so-
asking you right now, Southwest Airlines, publicly on the other side with DC. We want a plane.
Bring it to the other side.
Bring it to the other side. Bring it over just fly it right on in over at Redbird.
That's right.
At Executive, and land the plane, and then let the kids in the community learn the operation of the plane.
Yeah.
This is real simple.
Very.
Take it out the hangar and let us have it. Okay? I'm serious. See, I as mayor, when I was mayor of this city and mayor pro tem, I would ask for the order.
You have to.
If you don't ask for it, you won't get it.
You have to.
So we got to put it out on public record that we want the plane,
Yeah.
we want the buses, we want paratransit vehicles, old ones,
Yeah.
that we can take over and let kids start learning how to do mechanical
Right.
work on them.
Right.
And I think your commitment is there, and I'm glad that you are there, setting the stage, so that folks can know that the doors will always be open.
Yep.
Okay, for opportunity.
Yes, sir.
So I mean that's a great thing. Now, how will we extend when we do go to DeSoto
Mm-hmm.
and areas? Where would it come from? Would it fall on the same line
Good question.
currently right now going across I-20 to
Good
get
question.
through there to get to, because we had to build nothing new to get there. didn't we?
Yeah. So DART, our light rail is one of the second largest in the country. I think it's right behind LA Metro.
Right.
It's one of the, and so, but we actually own right of way. We own right of way all the way up to Sherman.
Okay.
We own right of way out to Frisco. We own part of the right of way that extends beyond the red line and the green line in the southern sector, right?
Southern Dallas.
Southern part of Dallas.
Yeah. So we don't have. You never talked about the northern sector, the eastern sector, or the western
Well, I was
sector.
in whole different counties at that point.
Yeah. But so I don't like to be on the southern sector. I hate the word sector.
Struck a nerve.
Yeah. I hate sector. Why we
Okay.
got to be the only sector
In southern Dallas.
in southern Dallas? Okay.
I'm with it.
Yeah. Okay.
So the right of way, DART owns
Right.
some right of way beyond, in almost all directions of our light rail. We own right of way beyond it,
Mm-hmm.
right? We could go. Everyone talks about Allen and Fairview as the biggest impediments for the light rail going up to McKinney.
Mm-hmm.
We can go through Allen and Fairview right now and just don't stop.
Right.
It'd be a high speed rail.
But it's gone.
It just goes straight to McKinney and just blow right past Allen and Fairview. We don't need them. We already own the right of way there. And so there is some right of way that we own south of the Westmoreland station where the terminus currently is.
Right.
And so it's just it's about where that alignment is, because acquiring a right of way is the biggest expense. Technically, the tracks are there, but they're just not compatible with the light rail vehicle. They're commuter-based tracks, and so the tracks would have to be changed. The Canton area would have to be installed, right? But the right of way, to a degree, exists for a lot of our expansion plans that could be possible. Of course, it's going to be what those communities desire, where they want onboarding and exiting stops within their communities, and so that's kind of what I was talking about before. Like, what are the transit needs in your community, right? We know McKinney is putting in a commercial airport now, right?
Okay.
They're putting in a 20,000 seat amphitheater, right?
That's Troy Aikman, isn't it?
I don't know if that's Troy Aikman or not.
There's something. Troy got something going somewhere up there. It's huge.
know.
Anyway, give him a shout. Give him a shout, Troy.
Shout out to Troy Aikman. But so, they have a new convention center or a hotel and a convention center component going into McKinney, right? So being able to identify where are the next kind of feature points of the region and ensuring that transit has a component to it, right? And so you have to do that with a needs assessment, because what Lancaster wants and need may not be the same as DeSoto, right? We understand they're in the Great Southwest Partnership Collective, but they may be different within the cities. And so, again, my job or my goal wouldn't be to push anything onto them, but to understand how DART can be a better partner, how DART can be a partner for them.
Well, that's great. Let me tell you something, man. Let's talk a little bit about advertising before I teased that to say that I was going to deal with it. I've been dealing with DART with advertising for many years, ever since the lady with the big glasses. Is she still down there? You know what I'm talking about. What's her name? Come on, give her. Her daddy was the sheriff, but he was the something here. You know what I'm talking about. Is she still there?
She may be.
she's she's okay, but the advertising at DART, I would like to see it spread it out. When I say spread it out, communication is the key to everything.
Sure.
I would like for minority advertisers, and that goes for agencies and newspapers and all that,
Sure.
to get a much fairer shot
Sure.
at what's going down.
Sure.
Also, the buses, the advertising on the buses is great. We have one bus that has an African American law firm on it, where the tooth has been blacked out, and it's been on there for like 4 months now. I see it, and
You
I
done
have to
waited
call it
a
out
whole
now.
hour and a half to get to this.
Yeah.
You cutting up real good now.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't cut them too bad, but I want them to recognize the fact that needs to take place. And so when I say it to the vice chair,
Yeah.
then it goes up. See, water runs downhill, don't run uphill. So you put it up here, then it's certainly gonna reach down there.
No, I get it.
Anyway, I just say that. I want to say something, and as we kind of get ready to wrap up, because I want to be able to come back with you in some of your other hats that you're wearing.
Sure.
Okay. People that have watched this have heard this interview that we're doing now. They should be just as proud of you as I am.
I appreciate that.
Most knowledgeable, well-read, well-presented, the whole package.
I appreciate that.
I see you personally moving on up the ladder. I think there's no ceiling for you. I encourage you to continue. I'm proud of you.
I appreciate
I'm
that.
proud to know you since you was wearing them little dirty Pampers, but Granny never let you wear them dirty. But at the end of the day, to encourage people to know that you don't have to wait till you're old to get involved. Get involved young.
Right.
Be committed, and make the difference.
Right.
I look at you as being the president of DART. You'll keep the doors open. I can see you being the mayor of the city, bypassing a city council member. I can see you being beyond even commissioner's court. Yeah, I can see that, and because that's about to come to a close. Rightfully so, and I mean, okay, fine, but the governor, you are that, and if you wasn't that, I wouldn't be saying it.
You got good vision.
I got good vision, don't I? So at the end of the day, I really appreciate you taking out the time to giving me an opportunity to sit with you in probably one of the most civil interviews that I've done. Okay? Not throwing nobody under the bus, over the bus, or off the bridge. Because the information that's been disseminated here today,
Yeah. It's a lot.
and it's more.
I'll tell you, it's DART. I spend about 20 hours a week minimum on DART. And just so everyone knows, DART board members get paid $50 a meeting. Mm-hmm. So this is not
Not about the money.
This is definitely not.
But you
about
do
the
get a
money.
chance to ride DART.
I do get a free bus pass.
Yeah, because they
And
used to
we
give-
might cut that. I don't know.
No, but they
we got
used,
a
to
budget
give,
gap.
they used to give me one.
We got a budget gap, so we might have to give that up.
Yeah, used to give me one.
Yeah, but it is a labor of love. I think back, even back when you were a council member and the lobbying work that I've done my entire career, but even then, when you were in office and the opportunities that were afforded and the looking out, so to speak, in my younger years that you did, and I've always appreciated that. But it is a labor of love, the work that we do, because it's really not for anything else. There are times when decisions you make impact people that don't even know the room that you are even in exists. let alone that you are there, let alone that you are advocating on their behalves, right? But that is kind of like my guiding star, so to speak, that I just kind of keep in the back of my mind that I'm doing it for somebody that don't even know my name.
Well, I'm going to give you a list of my concerns, none that, we even have to deal with today, because they are, and you know the level of them, and so we'll carry that on. But as long as there's an open door, and I know it is, I'm proud.
I appreciate that.
I'm proud. Granny, you're going to get them greens, okay? You're going to get the greens. I'm going to do them personally just for you. Yeah. You're not going to get them today, but you're going to get them, okay? So, tune in and let's keep up the great work, and we'll talk about other stuff.
I appreciate it.
The other side with DC, Randall Bryant, going somewhere.
You've been listening to The Other Side with Dwaine Caraway. Thank you for joining us. Tune in next time for more great guests, insightful conversation, a little bit of humor, and a whole lot of truth on The Other Side with Dwaine Caraway.
Mm-hmm.